Welcome, welcome. Good afternoon. We are back on another Thursday, a special Thursday, a combine Thursday. What a great time to be drafting. And especially, as you notice, we are going to go away from the norm this today of doing a traditional best ball draft. We are going to do some rookies and sophomores today. They are fantastic. They are quick. Each one takes about kind of 10 minutes or so. So we will jump into a few of them. But no better time than doing those now with the combine literally happening starting today. And you all are in for a treat because for those who have tuned in for the past couple shows, you have known that my number one, my Achilles heel, I am horrible at pronouncing some of these names. I'm hoping that this weekend, as I pay attention to the draft, watch a little of the actual live footage, I can pick up on how to pronounce some of these. But today, I'm throwing it all out there. So maybe give me a little. I'm going to play a little easy on me, be a little easy on me because I'm definitely going to get some wrong. But I definitely have done the research though on these guys. Have been putting some ranks. I believe we're going to get some ranks up on the site pretty soon for them. In the meantime, I have my ranks built into my the Underdog kind of rankings element. So as you watch this show, you'll get a feel for how I'm ranking them. We can talk through positional scarcity because I do think at the end of the day, like player takes obviously matter a ton here. If you think like in the past couple of years, like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, like obviously your chances of winning are substantially higher because when you're comparing, because there just aren't that many at each position. But this early, before we know where they're drafted, before we even see them at the combine, it's hard to have too many strong player takes. So yes, I think player takes, as I'm saying, they're important if you get them right. But from a process wise, positional scarcity, kind of looking, beating your opponents for that 4-person draft, as well as how do we think about optimizing for that 56, I think it's 56-person final. That's what we really should be focusing on here. So I want to let's make it as interactive as possible. Let's get some good afternoon, some chat in the morning. Who are you most excited for kind of watching at the combine? Bryce Young walking in, looking pretty small. Whether he weighs in, what he weighs in at, hearing maybe 200 or such. So a lot of excitement there. But rather than kind of like focusing directly and jumping into strategy, I think what's going to be best is we're just going to jump into these drafts and I will talk through kind of my process, what I've been doing, and answer any questions from you all. So as always, if this is your first time ever playing Underdog, please do sign up, use promo code ETR, and you will get up to $100 cash back on your deposit match. And from there, when we jump in, so it's a little tricky to find the rookies and sophomores. I know some people have been reaching out to me and talking about and asking about this, but because if you go to the NFL section, they only have the big board, little board. And I was talking to Rudman about it, and it's because these sections are only for if they have all these like casual games as well that are not tournaments. If there's only the tournament, then they don't include this slate. So for those kind of one-off wonky tournaments, such as this sophomores one, you have to go to the actual banner here. You can see we are at about 50% full right now. Did we hit the 50.3? We just hit the 50%. It filled extremely quickly in the first day when it was the first like up in front that when you log in, you saw. As they started kind of pushing the more daily things that they want to fill earlier in the screen when you're on the app, people aren't seeing this. So it's really slowed down a bit. But I'm guessing that, hey, we're still at 50. It's still going to probably fill in, by mid, next week or so. And today we will do our part in jumping into it's like 3 of these today. So jump on in to the there you go. How's it going, Pete Overbet? Good to see you. Good to see you. So hopefully, jump on in. These will fill pretty quickly here, and we'll go through. From a rule standpoint, we should definitely highlight this to start off because what is the structure-wise? You are drafting against 3 others. So there are 4 teams competing in each draft. There are 12 rounds. From a positional standpoint, each week you are going to be starting 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers or tight ends. They group them, and 1 flex. Compared to, what does this mean kind of for starters is that running backs are not as valuable as we traditionally think. When, when it's 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, that's a 2-to-3 ratio. 1-to-2 is substantially, that wide receivers have that larger impact. So I'm a little devaluing, deprioritizing running backs. I was looking through my teams last year when I played in this, and if you think back through, like, the rookies and sophomores for running backs last year were pretty ugly. Obviously, to early in the season, you had the Breece Hall, the Kenneth Walker doing really well. But like for most of the year, you had a lot of teams that were taking zeros at running back and still advancing. And then into the playoffs, like there wasn't that much of substantial players. I think Ramondre was his sophomore season. He was the one that like was in the only player that like you really wanted to have from like a health standpoint and production wise. So let's see. Let me go back to the draft. We're still only 3 or 4. Come on, people. Let's jump in. We got one more. We got people. We got enough in here. Yeah, running backs still don't matter. I mean, if anything, other than the backyard one where there were literally no running backs, this one definitely plays a role there. What I've often been doing, especially because you have like the Bijan, the Kenneth, the Breece at the top, and most teams usually end up with one of those 4, or at least one of those 4. You could very well survive with just grabbing one of those running backs and then waiting a while. If we take a look at the running backs that are being drafted near the end of the draft, almost always available in kind of the last 2 rounds, you've got Devon A-Chain. I heard this one. I think it's like A-Train, but a chain. So Devon A-Chain, who I've told you guys I'm very high on. I think he's going to blow it away with the 40 this week. He's also, like, if you look at where we've been seeing from a mock draft standpoint, let's see, let me pull up. I usually have it in the other tab. He is currently projected pick 61 overall, which would put him at RB4 off the board, compared to someone like Sean Tucker, who is RB8 off the board and 109, literally almost 3 rounds later, but from an ADP is right next to each other. So that's one of those more interesting ones where, like, not quite sure why that is. I think Sean Tucker has a bit more of a prospect profile that we like for fantasy, but like, I'm still very excited about Devon from like a speed wise, and he was starting to catch balls his last 2 seasons. And but just let me consider there. Okay, we are on the board. Kenny Pickett goes 1 overall. A little earlier than what I've been seeing, but you got to flow with the draft. So I'm always still going to be going for Bijan. For me personally, I think it makes sense to kind of almost always focus on these first kind of 4, maybe even 5 guys. Because, again, there's kind of 2 goals as we go through these drafts. One is you've got to advance throughout of your round, obviously. So beat those other 3 and you advance. There's a bit of a bully aspect that you can play where if you end up going with 3 of the quarterbacks and such, you kind of hamstring your opponents and such. But also we're trying to optimize for first place is 20K. I think second place is 9K. It is a bit top heavy, as all these are for that final week. And so if you go too hard on the bully aspect, or you go too much for those kind of QBs early on, yeah, you probably increase your chance of advancing, but your chances of probably actually winning, you're at a substantial disadvantage, because in these other drafts, there are people who kind of started off with an ADP standpoint of going with maybe even getting 2 running backs. And as we think about what the playoffs are going to look like, Richardson are probably going to have a more substantial role come playoff times. Will as well. And then Sam Howell, I was drafting him a decent amount on, but then we got the report yesterday or a couple days ago from Ron Rivera. So, okay, that he may not be the full starter. He's the 1A. We'll go look into that. So we have our Bijan. 3 QBs already gone, expecting that it's going to be QB heavy round. This guy goes with 2. We probably want to grab at least 1 before Coltron kind of maybe goes with the double aspect, but I think it's too hard in this scenario to pass on these elite guys. So I'm going to go here and try to say, like, hey, I've got 2 elite running backs, potentially the 2 best running backs you can have at season end in this draft. Hope that I can still kind of find some value with the QB situation later on. So Mario goes Breece. It's a pretty interesting way to end up with Pickett and Breece, because this is a kind of fairly common 4-5 situation in drafts that he ended up with 1-8. All right, he went with Anthony Richardson there. I don't love that. Was really hoping that he'd fall to us. So no Sam or Will. I had been going Sam a decent amount earlier, but with a recent report from Ron that like he's 1A, but he may not be the starter. They might bring someone else in. I think Sam's probably most likely to be the starter at the beginning of the year, but Will's probably more likely to actually be competitive with the other QBs across the season and the playoffs. So we'll grab Will there. With this structure and grabbing these two, probably done with running backs for the entire draft. Maybe our very last pick, we throw in a third running back or something. But that's just kind of worth keeping in mind as we go through with this. Okay. Let's go. Let's use the draft board. We can get a little more views here. So Mario's got his 2 QBs. V Heckman has his 2 QBs. Be interesting to see, does Coltron take a gamble here and try to fight a little longer without the QBs, or does he play catch up right now and grab someone like Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Brock Purdy? We'll see as this clock winds down. I don't believe Coltron is auto drafting, but no, because Gibbs from an ADP, unlikely. Let's set the ranks and such. We'll see. So he grabs Drake London. Unless one of these guys go with a 3 QB. All right, we're in an interesting situation here. I think we go with Sam Howell. We'll grab Sam. Yes, like from a QB, we are obviously substantially behind the Pickett Richardson, the Bryce Young CJ, but then we also have the 2 elite running backs that can perform for us, may put up the most points of any of the players in this tournament, and we can use one in the flex, not having to commit to any other running backs here. And let's see what Mario does, but I'm actually considering it may make sense for us as well to grab Desmond Ridder here. It's just so important to get kind of the QB points here. Oof, Jackson Smith is there too. Hi, we know we have to expect that Coltron is going to be grabbing QBs. He's probably would go with the Desmond and the Purdy here. Yes, like this is great value on Jackson. Oh, Will and Sam. You know what? Let's grab Jackson. Jackson just, when we're thinking about trying to draft like the nut team, the team that, you know, has a level of uniqueness in the playoffs, is extremely strong top to bottom. I think it probably makes sense for us to grab Jackson. There was, you know, the other thought was, do we grab someone like a Desmond Ridder, like a Brock Purdy, which reinforces us with QB, and kind of almost eliminates Coltron from the draft. So I think if Jackson Smith wasn't there, would have grabbed a QB, because the difference kind of in what we're missing out on the wide receiver versus like later on would have been worth it. But yeah, as expected, Coltron grabs Desmond Ridder there. So what is his team looking like now? Very strong on the flex, on the skill positions, just has Desmond Ridder. May end up be getting 0 points for the majority of the year. He's probably going to be able to grab Purdy if he wants a little later too. For us, we definitely need wide receivers. More important for us to kind of grab those wide receivers and cement a third QB in Brock Purdy. If you're bullish on Brock Purdy, like this is a team that it would make sense maybe to grab that third. For me personally, again, we just really want to focus on the wide receivers. For me personally, I think Trey Lance comes in as day 1 starter. I think Trey Lance kind of remains a starter throughout the year, barring an injury. Not worth it in my mind to be kind of sacrificing some of these elite wide receiver upside at this point with Downs and Hyatt for someone like Brock Purdy. All right, let's see. As well, if there are kind of any questions or things you guys have been thinking through, feel free to put them in chat. Happy to kind of talk through and answer questions as we go. Let's see what else we're looking at here. So if you look at teams wise, Mario got his 2 QBs, Breece Hall and Tyler Algier, pretty strong in the running back department, and now likely going to be stacking pretty heavy in the wide receivers. I'm going to mostly ignore Coltron. Now, what Coltron has done is he's weakened the, the skill, the wide receiver, tight end, running back core for the rest of us. but I don't really consider him too much of a competitor for this draft. Very low likelihood. But for Coltron, the way that he can think about it is maybe Desmond Ridder actually is the start of the whole year. And maybe he even ends up grabbing like a Purdy situation here or something. And there you go. So maybe one of these two, Desmond Ridder, Brock Purdy, actually does become the starter and has a substantial, decent enough year that they can actually advance. He's looking extremely good come playoff times if both of these guys are starting. So I do like taking the strategy he is and mixing some of those into the draft pools because if there are going to be teams like that just kind of went strong in the running back wide receivers, felt a little desperate later on, so grabbed the Ridder, the Purdy, maybe even threw in a third QB like a Hendon Hooker or Malik Willis or something. So as you're thinking about your larger portfolio, worth considering that. One other note. So when we think about like from a, synergy within your team, definitely want to think about like, hey, overall, I want to prioritize playoffs, but it also makes sense to think through like, you don't want to be taking zeros to start the year. And so we look in this area, we've got, it's like Wan'Dale Robinson, we've got Romeo Doubs, we've got, from a tight end wise, both Greg Dulcich and then Chico. So like if you want to plug in like, guys that maybe their upside isn't as high like the tight ends, but like week one, they're going to have a role in playing. I don't hate it. But for the most part, I'm prioritizing the ones that are going to be peaking during that playoff time period because advancing out of 4, like 25% given random chance in this draft, when you include that Coltron probably has like, instead of his 25, he's maybe at 10. So that makes the rest of us on average like 30. It's worth taking chances because for focusing on those playoffs rather than trying to optimize for like avoiding the early zeros and such. Okay, we are at pick 10. We've got 3 more to go. Do not believe we're going to be going with any more quarterbacks. There's really a strong drop off after the Ridder and the Purdy. So we could do a 2-2-8 or a 2-3-7. I think 2-3-7 probably makes sense if we can get a guy that we like, which for me, it's either, Zach Charbonnet or Devon Achane. And so if we can grab one of those two, we'll probably use that as our third. And we're not really giving up much from a wide receiver standpoint right now. I think at this point, they're all pretty similar. And there's actually value to but going off the board to get the uniqueness. Because again, like that uniqueness does come into play. If you can pick the guy that actually breaks out, and he's not being drafted in most drafts, like that has value come playoffs time. So once we get to this place, especially when like I'm going heavy from like a wide receivers and I'm really going with a breadth standpoint, I'm even more so care about grabbing guys that really are not being drafted much. And I really just mix it up because, so let's take a look here. Like I'm just going by ADP when you get this late, but like Tyler Scott looking like maybe a third rounder or such, like looking like maybe a day 2 draft guy we don't know much about. Rashee Rice actually projected to get drafted a little higher. Dalton Kincaid from a tight end wise, people really like him as a pass catcher. David Bell in his sophomore year, maybe he actually has a little more chemistry. So I'm just going to really just mix it up here. Let's go with Tyler Scott for this first one. And the second one, let's see. Let's go with, we'll pull out David Bell in here just because, as we were saying, like, hey, not being drafted barely any at all. Also, all of our others besides Wan'Dale are rookies, and even Wan'Dale himself is questionable for week 1 off the injury and stuff. So who knows? Maybe it gives us a little early upside as well. But I also, just bullish on that team with Deshaun Watson having an actual offseason to practice with the team rather than jumping in midseason. And at that point, as we go, I'm going to go jump in another one so we can get that loading in the background as we finish out this other draft. With these drafts too. So usually when I'm kind of jumping through, so I have done, let's actually, yeah, we'll finish this last pick and then we can go take a look at what I've got. So we got David Bell plugged in there. I don't hate Isaiah Likely either. Yes, he's a tight end, but when you consider what his usage has been when Mark Andrews has been hurt, that's kind of elite usage upside. I think back to, what was it? Yeah, there you go. Week 18, where I think he had 10 receptions, 100 yards or so, 13 targets, 103 yards. Absolutely love that. Like in the scenario that maybe Mark Andrews gets hurt or something. So I like mixing that in. You know what? Let's do that. We'll go with the Isaiah Likely situation for this one. Grab it. All right. Yeah, so I'm at 132 of these. I went very hard the first day. I was actually traveling back home when they launched it, so I had some good airport time. Even up in the air, I was able to draft some of these. If we want to take a look at my exposure, I don't mind kind of going through that here. From a QB wise, Anthony Richardson is far and away my top guy. I think where he's being drafted, where you can almost always get him in second, third, sometimes even the fourth round, although probably never letting him get to the third or the fourth round, combined with like, he's probably going to be a top 10, top 15 quarterback chosen. If we take a look at the latest, let's see, the latest mocks, latest big boards, he's number 12 right now. And think back to like last year, Kenny Pickett was drafted where? And we were still kind of drafting him just, even though we didn't love the profile, he didn't have that rushing upside that Anthony Richardson does, but like we still considered him a valuable play. And now we've got Anthony Richardson projected to be drafted earlier than Kenny Pickett was. And we know that like if he's actually playing on the field, he has an substantial floor because of that rush. And then upside, if he actually turns into a legitimate, like whether it's Colin Kaepernick, whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Cam Newton, he's going to be getting those rushing touchdowns. He's going to be getting yards on the ground. Like the upside there is tremendous, I think, especially for these drafts. That's why I have so much of him. Sam Howell early on, I really liked because of the value, and I expected him, a week or so ago, Ron Rivera said that like Sam Howell is the starter. Then yesterday, 2 days ago, where he came out and said like, no, he's actually the 1A. That obviously concerns me a bit more. Oh, we're on the clock. Why? I thought I was going to get some kind of notification or something. No worries. That's why we have our brink set. Ooh, this could get ugly. Okay. Well, this is not how I normally would have started without grabbing a second quarterback. I probably would have gone after Garrett Wilson. I would have grabbed Bryce Young or CJ Stroud there. Maybe we get a little lucky and Bryce Young can fall back to us. I doubt it. But hey, this will be a unique draft standpoint from starting with the two elite wide receivers. I don't think many drafts are started that way because it gets quite scary. We can go back into my ownership and such later on. So we are back on the clock. We can grab Anthony Richardson. Okay. So yeah, Bryce Young went there. Then Christian, guy behind us, has no QBs. So it does make sense in my mind to kind of make sure we can cement the Anthony Richardson aspect. So let's grab him. So Hope started with the Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall, similar to what we did last time with that strong running back, then goes with the double QB. We only have Anthony Richardson. We could reach a little and grab Desmond Ridder or Brock Purdy. A little. Let's go with Jackson Smith and just say like, hey, we have fantastic wide receivers here. We'll see whether it's rare that people are grabbing 3 QBs this early because, as I mentioned, like it really just kind of hamstrings you a bit for those playoff weeks. So it's more of, do we think that J.K. Bach reaches and grabs one of the QBs? And if he does, also, does he grab Purdy? Does he grab Desmond Ridder? Gives us some optionality there. Okay, that worked out well. Now, So we could wait on QB because Hope already has two QBs and no wide receivers. So we're expecting Hope to kind of go. But in my mind, there isn't a substantial difference players that we'd be going for. So I more so want to say, hey, I want to make sure we get Desmond Ridder here. Our second QB, maybe Desmond Ridder kind of starts the year as the QB and they at least give him a shot. Maybe they bring a veteran in. Desmond Ridder, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's most likely if Desmond Ridder plays that he would start the year as that QB, which would be good for this combo with Anthony Richardson because maybe Anthony Richardson sits for a bit. As we thought, Hope grabs the two wide receivers. We still have no running backs. Could grab like a Pacheco or a Tyler Algier, but I think, you know what? As we mentioned, RBs do not matter. We're just going to stick with strengthening our wide receiver core and keep going. Okay. Running backs definitely falling a bit here after those first, traditional three. Curious to see whether J.K. Bach kind of sticks with just Bryce or does he try to kind of strengthen the team with someone like a Brock Purdy. Someone will have, when we have, Anthony Richardson, Desmond Ridder, there you go, grabs the Brock Purdy. I think we probably would have grabbed Brock Purdy if he fell back to us at the 27 or 30 spot, depending who's available, even though I'm not bullish on Brock, just giving us another out to stay alive with our QB kind of carousel wouldn't be the worst. That's okay. We are counting here Anthony Richardson, Desmond Ridder, putting a strong combo together. Anthony Richardson coming in early and kind of leading us to a strong victory. From a running back, so let's see. Mario only has Damian Pierce, grabs Brian Robinson there. Okay, I think now would be the time then that we grab Pacheco as our first running back. Okay. All right, thinking through, trying to think what others might do. Hope is going with a very similar draft strategy to what we had last draft. Let's grab the Jalen Hyatt. Hyatt could literally be the number one wide receiver drafted off the board. He's as we say, better for best ball style wide receiver with over the. Those are the kind of guys that kind of just excite you, not only for just best ball, but like, hey, maybe they have the ability to break out because yes, we know he has the speed and maybe we're underrating his ability from a route running or ability to earn targets. So we'll grab that. We're very, very, very strong at wide receiver here, which I love to see. From a finishing roster construction, 2-4-6 probably makes sense. And with that 2-4-6, we'll be grabbing definitely one running back here, maybe two. Rashad goes. We'll go James Cook. Had a really good discussion in the ETR Slack channel earlier a couple days ago. It was right after Lenny was released. Like, hey, where should we be ranking Rashad White? And a lot of the discussion was like, kind of, should he be right ahead of Cook? Should he be right behind James Cook? I think we kind of settled right behind James Cook because we still. I think we just have a lot of concern over that Tampa offense. It does seem like this is going to be kind of one of those just tanking years with Kyle Trask as the primary quarterback. And they're just, hey, suck for Caleb, or let's see, is there any other channel channel for, I don't know. Either way, they're going to suck for Caleb. And even though I think I put a joking tweet out about it, but like, yeah, Rashad White end up with a zillion touches. But the efficiency and the down expectancy. Okay. We're going to grab Devon here. Maybe give us a solid 4 running backs. Didn't draft any of them before pick 27. And feel pretty good about being able to put together some solid weeks among those. And now we'll end this with a wide receiver tight end. This would probably be another situation where, like, hey, if you are bullish on one of these QBs, this is the type of team where it's not bad to kind of use a late pick to complement your 2 riskier quarterbacks. The challenge is like, I'm not expecting much from any of them. So it's definitely going to go with another wide receiver. Let's play spin the wheel. We didn't grab David Bell last time. We did Isaiah Likely last time. Let's go with David Bell this one. I mean, you could also kind of be thinking about like stacks and stuff. For this one, no rookie sophomores from a Desmond, from an Anthony, about what team he ends up on. Obviously, it wouldn't be David Bell in this situation. But you can just start looking for like, okay, what teams maybe need a quarterback and would be willing to kind of trade up into that middle of the draft or already fall into that middle of the draft range. There you go. Okay, let's do one more. If people are interested, we can go back into my ownership. Up to you all. I will jump back into the chat after this. We get this draft going. Should we go Boley QB next draft? I'm trying to think of the times that like Boley QB makes sense to me. It's rare that I'm going into the draft saying, hey, I want to force Boley QB. It's more of when my opponents are getting too cute and think that they can just wait and grab QBs later. And now I'm like, I'm taking them here. And so that means like once I grab my 2, I really want to try to complement and see like, okay, where am I weak? Because I'm always going to be weak at either running back or the wide receiver aspect. If you go 3 QB, just accepting that come playoff time, you're behind the 8 ball. But if you're getting your because Sam Howell or Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, it's horrible. Or Will Levis ends up falling to that 5th rounder or something, and now or even 4th round, and now it's like, yep, I'm doing it now because I'm not sacrificing that much because the elite guys are kind of already gone. And you want to, I'd say 5th round is a good time where it's like, okay, they're risking it too much to bullet QB. So if it happens, willing to do it. But for the most part, I'd rather get like 2 really solid ones and only then punish the others when they don't. So waiting on one more. Come join us. I guess I'll go into I'm going to pull up my phone on the side to make sure we don't miss it this time. But let's take a look at exposure. All right, so we were talking to the QBs. Yeah, so Sam Howell was on him early, but then really started slowing down in the past day or two when Ron Rivera came out and said he's only the 1A. The rest of the QBs, like the benefit of Kenny Pickett is that we know he's going to be starting week 1. And I mean, obviously he's going to be starting throughout. In my mind, though, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, like I have full expectation that they're going to be starting day 1 anyways. So Pickett, even though his ADP is like higher and I'm willing to kind of stick with the ADP aspects, I think Bryce Young and CJ Stroud just have higher upside there. All right, our draft is filled. We are slot 3. We'll jump back into that in a minute. From let's see, running back, no surprises here with Devin A-Chain as my number 1 running back, trying to grab him a bunch and knowing I can get him late. Bijan, if he's my number 1 overall. And people are drafting Pickett sometimes. People are drafting Garrett Wilson. So that's why I've gotten such high exposure here. Not surprising. It is like, hey, I want to grab one of these top running backs and then really wait. And then I'll show the wide receivers, but we'll jump back into the draft as we are going. Don't want to miss out again into the draft room. We got Eagles in here with us. How's it going? Mario jumping in again and Bonner Bryan. A lot of familiar names. Okay, so starting off, also, here's a good one. As you draft more, you're going to get a better feel of who you are drafting with. So, for example, someone like Eagles is very much into a Boley QB structure. So he grabbed Bijan because Bijan was available, but like I've many times seen him kind of draft Kenny Pickett very early on. So we have to have an expectation that Eagles is going to be going for QBs pretty early. And as you get a feel for who you're drafting with, you can understand like, oh, okay, this guy actually waits a while on QBs. So I'm going to wait. In this structure, like a lot of drafts, I'd be like, you know what? I'm going Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall because that's a great combo. You're getting like the strong running backs. You can wait the rest of it. But if I did that, I know that Eagles is grabbing one of them here, and he would also grab a second here. And now I'm getting left out with no Bryce CJ, and I'm stuck to that kind of Anthony Richardson as my first QB. So I'm going to instead grab this. I'm going to know that Eagles is going to grab CJ. Actually, I think he's going to grab C.J. Stroud here. Maybe he has a tough decision trying to get the unique of, and he's still, because Bijan and Brees is a very unique combo, but I know that Eagles loves his QBs in the structure, doesn't want to get left out, so he grabs that there. Mario here is going to get the Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, a little unique, not the most, but he's also got now a uphill battle for QB. We'll see whether he grabs Anthony Richardson, has to reach there. I wouldn't be shocked if Eagles actually grabbed one of these QBs. If he grabs one, we grab the other. If he grabs none, then we don't grab either. So it's a bit of a, follow the leader, react to your drafts situation here. He does not, so we know that we can likely wait. We'll grab Christian Watson, which is a nice tier above the next, group of rookie wide receivers. This gives us a pretty solid start here with, a second or so best QB, or I don't know. Probably second best running back, maybe best QB, definitely like top 2, very strong. Sam Howell goes, that now goes. Okay. And that's why we knew we could most likely wait on the QB. And now we're going to be able to get our one. Eagles will probably go with Desmond Ridder with his next pick. So we can't afford to let this fall. Gives us, I do still think that Will is a tier above the Desmond Ridder and Brock Purdy by a substantial amount with the draft capital that he's going to get. Exactly. Eagles goes Desmond Ridder there. Mario is now going to probably wait on the QB. It's not as much of a need now because everyone else has 2, and the guy that's left is basically Brock Purdy. So expect him to just kind of load up here on the other positions and then grab like a Brock Purdy, maybe with the 24th, 25th. I think if he doesn't grab the Brock Purdy at 24, 25, he's risking taking too many risks that someone here doesn't want to go full bully and grab a third QB. Now, does Eagles grab Purdy at 23? That'd be interesting. That would be interesting, but it wouldn't shock me. Okay, let's see. He'll probably go best available with Jackson. I love Jordan Addison. I think Jordan Addison, actually, from a fantasy-wise, is probably the top wide receiver on the board here. Note on Jackson Smith, he does, is that sounds like he's not going to be doing the 40 at the combine, which means we have to wait a little longer for the pro day. Coming off the injury and such, you don't love that. It's not so much like I really wanted to see his combine 40. It's, that it was important that he does it here versus pro day. It's more of, I'd like to have gotten the news that hey, he is truly fully healthy right now. Not running there maybe adds a little kind of doubt and such in the minds of the teams that are looking to draft him when there's already been a little of that doubt. But yeah, I have Addison as my, I think probably number 1 wide receiver in this year's class. Love getting him in this space. Okay, we're back. We have Kenneth Walker. I think we're going to grab Dameon Pierce here. Give us a really strong second running back. And gives us some correlation aspects where decent chance that Houston ends up with Bryce, also possibility they end up with Will. So let's take that little correlation there. This now sets us up that we probably only need to draft one more running back for the rest of it. Gives us a 2-3-7 draft build. And yeah, we got Christian Watson, which was fine. And Jordan Addison, but we're still a little behind the 8 ball on wide receivers when you look at, we didn't get Wilson, Olave. So we're playing a little catch up here, but that's okay. Wow. Okay. We're getting to a situation with this QB. Brock Purdy keep falling. We need to go with it's more important. We got Bryson Will. I feel pretty decent about that. I'd like for someone to go with a third one to kind of lock out Mario and leave him with only Anthony. But one note with the Purdy situation and Anthony is that you grab both of those. And if Anthony's not starting week 1, it's not likely Brock Purdy is starting week 1 either. So depending on how many weeks he goes without a QB, that could just kind of, take him out of this draft. Or Anthony Richardson is an actual absolute boss, and it is what it is. All right, let's keep going with the wide receivers. Love that upside of Hyatt that I talked about earlier. All right. I am curious to see, does Eagles grab Brock Purdy and go with the true bully situation? Nope. Grabs James Cook. So is Mario going to take Purdy? Like, really, I mean, well done on him by waiting another round or so and not and letting him fall back. We'll see whether or not he stays gambling or whether he kind of assures it. Mario is a gambler if he doesn't take Purdy here. Love to see. There it is. There it is. Smart move. Smart move. There's just not that much of a difference that you're gaining by passing now on these guys than what you'd be able to get in the next round. So assuming he wanted to take Purdy, which you got to imagine, it makes sense there. Okay. We could go with Zach Charbonnet for our third running back. I don't hate that. But again, you guys know how much I love Devon down here, and assuming that I can probably still get him there, he goes there. So we will wait. We'll grab Wandale. Okay, 3 more picks. Probably going to be 1 running back, 2 wide receivers. There still is a bit of a tier with these wide receivers versus the end of the draft. While I consider a lot of these running backs in a pretty similar spot. So if Kayshawn is available, I'll grab. Oh, there you go, Bonner, stealing my man. That's okay. I like it. I like it. So we're going to grab Kayshawn here because I think Kayshawn's probably the last one with the rookie upside that is the tier above those flyer rookies, I would call them. And I'll take the more unknown upside of the second round Kayshawn rookie. Let's see where he's expected to be going right now. What's his? Let's pull up wide receiver. Kayshawn right now is looking like pick 56. That's end of the second. Current projection has him to Dallas. Would love to see that. There's actually a lot of value in being you'd much rather be a late, for fantasy, we'd rather you be a late second than an early second, because late second usually is filling a strong team's need that has a strong QB and wants that wide receiver. Dallas would be an amazing fit there. All right, we are back in the clock here. Probably need to be grabbing Sean Tucker or Tajay. Let's just go with the ADP. I don't really have strong opinion between those two. So we'll grab that. Could argue that we could go with a 4th running back here, but I think it's more important for us to grab another wide receiver. We can also get a bit unique with another pick here. Thinking if there's any stack aspects, so Bryce and Will, so early of the draft guys. Nothing really pairs. Who have we not grabbed right yet? I think we did a Tyler Scott. I think we did a Bell. I think we did a Likely. Let's grab a Rashee Rice. Okay. There we go. And I mean, I'll emphasize, again, those late ones, you should just be don't have any bias around it. Maybe consider around I don't want to grab Daniel Bellinger because what is that upside? You're only drafting for, as a 7th guy. But use those dart throws and just spread it around the board. All right. This is fun. We got through 3 of these. Appreciate everyone for joining us. This is probably going to be the only rookies and sophomores show that we do because I'm expecting this to be filled by next week. So appreciated those who kind of came out and joined. I know this is a little different than what we normally do. If this was not your style, well, you probably already left the show. But if you're still hanging around and you're like, that was interesting, but I like the traditional best ball, the traditional draft better, don't worry. We will be back next week. We'll be jumping in more of these big boards. Let's take a look. How are we doing with big board? We are at 40, almost 43% full. And it has been a few weeks. Let's see. Where am I with my big boards? I got 79. It's 150. So I'm at 53%. And they're at, they were at 40. No, that's the little board. They're at 43, so I'm a little ahead, which is perfectly fine. I wanted to get a little overweight early on as it was before, I think rookies and stuff started moving. I've slowed down lately because of these rookies and sophomores, but I think once this fills and after the combine, I'll probably do some quick analysis there and then jump back in to see if I can take advantage of some of the ADPs that we're expecting to change as a result of the combine results. Again, it's nothing that actually happens at the combine that's going to substantially change what we're doing. It's far more of, okay, the combine to influence the decisions, the potential draft capital of the teams. And that's what we care a lot about. That's far more predictive than anything that comes out of the specific actual combine aspect. So we'll keep an eye out. Rankings, continue to update the ETR rankings. I think we're going to get some of these rookies and sophomores up on the site in the next day or so. Hopefully today. If not, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Fingers crossed. And then for the actual full big board ones, I pushed out a major update, I'd say mid last week. I continue almost every day, maybe every other day, to kind of make small changes as I'm drafting and things I'm feeling out or news comes out. So keep an eye on those rankings. Last question about Mike McCarthy's comments. I believe this was the Kellen Moore situation, where he was specifically talking about how he had a difference in philosophy with Kellen Moore, where Kellen wants to become the number one passing offense, while McCarthy is like, you don't need to be the number one passing offense if you have a very strong defense. And I care more about being the number one team. I think it's just so outdated. I think it is justification for a view that you already have, rather than having an opinion to actually influence your decision, if that makes sense. Like, I think he already has this ground and pound. I want to be the team in the winter that is running it, that's protecting it. I want to play it safer. While this young gun, Kellen, wants to be throwing the ball, risking those interceptions, getting my defense back on the field where they don't have time to kind of rest. Like, it's just backward thinking. Hopefully, we see it. Like, the smarter teams, the smarter coaches, the smarter teams, the smarter GMs are continuously the ones that are, passing. And that pass rate over expectation very highly correlates with success and future success. And your willingness to actually continue to kind of stay within a strong offensive team. Look at the teams that were in the Super Bowl here. Two of the best this year, two of the best offenses. Yes, that is anecdotal, but it happens time and time again. Unfortunately, for Mike McCarthy, like, the times are just going to pass him, and it is what it is. I don't feel bad. It actually got me a little excited that, like, hey, we now know that Kellen Moore really did want to be that pass heavy and use what he first, when he, came as when he first started as an OC, we saw that creativity. Maybe we're going to see a bit more of that in Los Angeles. Like, maybe in that interview, he talked about his philosophy and they were like, we get it. We're on board. We want this too. Maybe this is the year that I actually draft more Justin Herbert. I don't know. We'll see. I'm all over Keenan Allen. God, it'd be so much fun if that is like a high-powered passing offense, and maybe Kellen Moore can actually unlock it and open it up. Okay. That is all for today. Thank you all for joining. It was a fantastic Thursday. What is my weekend? I am heading to Pinehurst tomorrow to play some golf, and it's supposed to be like in the 30s or at least 40s when I tee off. Not happy with that, but I can draft in North Carolina, so you'll see me still in the streets, maybe doing some late night ones with some friends. 6 rounds in 3 days, hoping that I don't blister up enough that I can't even draft from my phone anymore. Okay, that is the pain leaving the body. I think that's what it's called. No, pain is weakness leaving the body. That's right. Okay. Thank you again. Leave a comment. Shoot out a message on Twitter. Let the people know that you like the big boss upstairs, that you like me putting these on. I'll be back next week. I'm excited as watching some combine stuff this weekend too, and watching these rookies. Keep an eye on Devon A-Chain. I'm hoping that's it. Maybe I'm going to learn this weekend some new pronunciations. I will see you all later. Have a great day.